What word?
Observative? You're observative. That's a word. That's definitely a word. What else do you think it would be? Observatory? What do you think it is?
Observant?
It's both. It's both.
In today's episode, guys, we're going to talk about... So everyone is different, but a large part of it for me is the fact that I get to do what I love on a daily basis, and I get to do it with my wife, and with the team that I love, and for our members, who are people that I love. Besides that, I think a big thing for me is that I've become very big picture oriented, as opposed to being lost in the minutia like I used to. Something that helped me a lot in terms of becoming more big picture oriented was to write down what actually really mattered to me. And I want you guys to do the same thing at home while you're watching this. I want you guys to list out everything that's important to you and put them into these broad categories. So it might be, let's say, family. That might be important to you. It might be friends or relationships. It might be your work. It might be more personal, like hobbies or financial goals, things like that. So you have your categories. What you want to think is everything that doesn't affect these big picture items don't matter. They shouldn't take up any precious time or energy because you can't afford to lose any of that. So when certain things happen in your life, like someone cuts you off in traffic or your flight's delayed, now you have a mental screen of, is this something that I shouldn't even concern myself with? Because they're not really important to me, so why do they matter? All right, so the second key part to this is that now you have these categories, you probably have certain goals within these categories. And the big thing here is you have to recognize that you are the only thing that's gonna keep you from reaching those goals. So you have to take complete ownership and you have to make sure you take complete responsibility. Now, once you take ownership, you realize that complaining gets thrown out of the window because it has no value and you have no one to complain to. You can only complain about yourself, really, because you're taking complete ownership. And it literally, why can't I say it? And it definitely does not have, and it literally has no value in terms of getting you closer to those goals. And so in 5 words, how I can definitively say how I stay happy is don't sweat the small stuff.
All right, so I do think that it's really important to note that happiness is not intrinsic necessarily. I mean, maybe some people are more apt to be happy than others, but it is something that you can work on. And so what I've also noticed is that the more you work on it, the easier it becomes and the more natural it does become. So something that I like to use as a strategy and has become a very natural thing for me is to look for the silver lining in things. So I feel like I've been doing this from a young age, so now these things just kind of come out. An example would be I broke my hand earlier this year and it was my right hand and I'm a righty, and so my first statement was, well, I guess I get to become a lefty now. I guess I must have learned that from my past self. When I was about 11 years old, I also broke both of my feet doing gymnastics, and instead of sulking and sitting on the sidelines and saying I'm gonna be out for 6 months, I decided that the one thing I could do was handstands, so I would practice them every day, and later that year I actually became a state handstand champion. So you find things in even hard times, and even times where you're not necessarily in the best circumstances or the best situations, you find ways to say, this is a way I can grow, this is a way I can learn something new, and you start to naturally look for those things once you practice it.